Play of the game.
Helden sterben nicht.
Hey guys, what's up? MadSeason here, back with another video for you. Trying something a little different in this one. Don't worry, the next video will be a World of Warcraft video again. I just thought I'd share my thoughts and first impressions of Blizzard's soon-to-be-released FPS game, Overwatch, since it just started open beta, and I'm sure a lot of you are curious about it. Like I said, this is an FPS game. It's an objective-based shooter, much like Team Fortress 2. The default format is a 6-on-6 brawl, and you have a couple different game modes such as Control Point Capture and Escort, otherwise known as Payload for those of you who played TF2. It has some elements that are similar to MOBAs in the sense that you have character-specific skills and ultra attacks that you build up over time. It's very heavily teamwork focused, meaning that this game really shines and you'll have the most fun if you're coordinating with your teammates and comboing some of your abilities and ultras. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the things I like about it, and some of the things I don't like, and hopefully by the end of it you'll have a basic idea of what this game is all about, and you can decide if it's worth your money or not. Let's start with the good. The first thing I want to point out is just how many characters there are in this game. At release, we have a total of a whopping 21 different characters you can choose from. There are 4 different roles: offense, defense, tank, and support. Offense is pretty self-explanatory. These are characters that excel in pushing forward and dealing a heavy amount of damage to take down their enemies quickly. Defense heroes rely more on setting up shop and defending a choke point rather than pushing up. Tank heroes are designed to absorb damage and disrupt their enemies. And support heroes are your healers. Their focus is to heal up injured allies and save them from death. They're all extremely varied from each other, and from out of all of the ones I played, no two are similar. You have snipers, a turret builder, a character who's actually a turret himself, people who use grenade launchers, people who use assault rifles, bows, swords, you name it. It's highly unlikely, I think, for you to go through all 21 characters and not liking a single one. There's a character for pretty much every playstyle imaginable, and they all seem relatively well balanced, which is hard to do considering there's 21 of them. No one really feels too weak or too strong for me at the moment. Some characters are hard counters to others, but one of the aspects of this game is adapting and changing your strategy if you hit a brick wall. You can switch to any character you want during a match, so if you want to be successful, you're going to have to build up some experience with a small pool of characters so you can confidently counter the opposing team. If I had to pick the best thing about this game, it would easily be the diversity of characters. I think they did a really good job in this regard. As for the actual gunplay, it seems very polished to me. Bullets that should hit are hitting, and bullets that shouldn't hit aren't. In a lot of FPS games I've played, it seems like there's always some form of lag. So you run around a corner and yet still somehow the enemy kills you. On your screen you were clear by a mile, but on their kill cam they had an open shot on you. So far I haven't seen anything like that. The only thing that can be touchy sometimes is Roadhog's Chain, but even then it's pretty rare. The maps are also pretty fun. We'll be able to play 12 different ones at launch, and they're all pretty varied. You have maps in Greece, Mexico, the US, Russia, Egypt, and so on, and they all have a nicely crafted theme to them. In terms of actual gameplay design, they all feel great. There are plenty of choke points and open areas in the map, so you won't run into situations where you feel handicapped with certain characters just because you're playing on a disadvantageous map. As for progression, there is a leveling and unlock system. This was something that was missing in the closed beta I played a while back, and I'm super happy they added it. It's good not only for the matchmaking, but it gives you something to work towards. As for unlockables, you have things such as skins, sprays, victory poses, highlight intros, and so on. Between every character there are around 1,000 unlockables, so no worry about maxing them out within a week. It'll take quite a while. To actually unlock them you have to open loot crates, which you get by leveling. These crates give you 4 random unlocks and also a chance at some currency which you can use to buy specific unlocks, so you're not just rolling the dice every time. So it is a little random, but you still have some control on what items you want to get, which is nice. As for the levels, like I said, they're used in matchmaking, and there's currently no max, so you can keep going and people will know just how much you've been playing. There are some quirks with the matchmaking right now that I'll go over later. It's definitely not perfect. Another highlight of this game I wanted to mention is just the fact that it's a really fun game to play if you can manage to get a few friends to play with you. Like I mentioned, this game is heavily teamwork based, and it rewards coordination with your allies. I'm lucky because I happen to have a bunch of friends that are playing this beta, and when we have a full group up, it's an absolute blast. We've had some back and forth games with other premates that came down to the wire, and win or lose, if you're working together, it's really fun. Like I said, it's 6-on-6, so 5 friends would be optimal. When you have 6 friends coordinating and working together, it really is satisfying if you manage to pull out that win. It pretty much makes the game for me. But that's enough of the good. This game does have its flaws, I think. and that's to be expected, no game is ever perfect. The first thing I'll mention is there is another side to that whole teamwork thing, and that's where this game can get really frustrating and disappointing. If you're playing solo, I found that you lose that sense of teamwork and it really takes away from the game in my opinion. Without comms, it's nearly impossible to get those nicely timed pushes or defenses. It does have an in-game voice chat, but out of the 50 odd games I've played, I've only heard one guy speak and it was to cuss out the team. There are quick commands that kind of help, but I found that it's just not enough. They're hard to notice in the middle of a firefight and I've been guilty of missing quite a few of them. So they basically tried everything they can to fix that, but for me it still falls short. And that's a big deal because if you don't have that coordination, it can get really frustrating if you use your ultimate and no one pushed up with you. Or someone on your team used theirs and you just didn't notice in time and it ruined the push. I don't think you can really say that this is a flaw with the game, but it's just something you should know that you may not have as much fun playing solo rather than if you were playing with a bunch of friends. This brings me into another problem, and that's the matchmaking. Oftentimes when you're queuing solo, you'll get teamed up against pre-mades. It's not too prevalent, but I'd say I get matched up against pre-mades about 20% of the time, and with a game that has such a heavy focus on coordination, it's a complete slaughter. And I'm talking spawn camping levels of one-sidedness. You're put at a real disadvantage and you basically stand no chance. Another issue with this game is that it doesn't have a forfeit option, so you just have to slog through it sometimes, which is just unfun if you can never leave your spawn. This game does have a penalty system for leavers, which don't get me wrong is a good thing, but it's rough if you run into situations where you're stuck in your spawn with 4 Widowmakers on your team. This also goes for when you're in a pre-made and you get pitted up against randoms. I like those games that are down to the wire, win or lose, and if the enemy team can't get anything going, it's not as fun as it could be in my opinion. Another thing I think is a downside is the lack of game modes. There are technically 4 different ones, but I sort of count them as 2.5 because they're very similar to each other. First up we have Escort. Like I said, this is similar to TF2's Payload game mode. One team has to escort a payload to the end of the map, and the other team has to try and stop them. You also have the Assault game mode. For this one team has to attack and take control of 2 control points, and the other team has to defend them. The third one is Control. It's very similar to Assault. It's basically a King of the Hill game mode for those of you familiar with that. For this one, both teams are now fighting over control of 1 point, and once you fill up your percentage at the top there, you win. But I really only count this as half a game mode since it's so similar to Assault. And the final game mode is Hybrid. For this one you start with Assault and it ends with an Escort. Just like with Assault you have an attacking team and a defending team. You push up to a control point and once you capture it, you escort a payload through the rest of the way. I don't really count this as a separate game mode since it's basically just recycling Assault and Escort. So in total I think there's only 2.5 game modes if you want to count Control as a half. Honestly, I'm not sure what else they could add. I don't think Team Deathmatch really fits this type of game, and they already tried Capture the Flag. One of the problems they ran into was that it seemed mandatory to have certain classes for that, which I can see. You basically would need to have a Lucio and a Tracer on your team or you would just lose, which is really cheesy in my opinion. They definitely need to add more though, because I don't think this game can live long with only 4 game modes, with 2 of those being extremely similar to the others. And one final thing I'll mention that can be seen as a downside is the fact that you can have duplicate characters on your team. Now there are 2 sides to this, people in favor for picking whatever you want to pick, and people who want to limit it so there can't be more than one of any given hero on your team. I'm personally on the side of capping it to 1 unique character per team. Right now anyone can pick whatever they want to pick, and that sometimes leads to 4 of your teammates picking Widowmaker like I mentioned earlier, or maybe the enemy team has 6 Tracers or whatever. I think this is bad for a couple of reasons. One thing is I never want to be in a team with 5 snipers, that would just be a death sentence. 2 is I think it supports character maining too much. Like I mentioned earlier, being able to adapt and counter the enemy team on the fly is a big part of this game, and not limiting character selection like this kind of goes against that mentality. I mean, we have 21 great unique characters to play, but if one character is deemed to be stronger than the others, the next thing you'll know you'll be playing with and against 5 of them every match. As I mentioned earlier, for the most part I think every character is more or less balanced, but say if a patch comes out and all of a sudden Roadhog for example is extremely good, I don't want to play in a game where I have 3 Roadhogs on my team and the enemy team has 4. And I'm sure it'll be even worse when they release a new character because everybody will be flocking to play it. And I'm not saying it would be hard to counter something like that, I just think it would be really cheesy and lame to only see 3 unique characters in a match out of 12 people in a game that has 21 to choose from. But on the other side of the coin, limiting players can be bad too. Maybe you're in the mood to only play Widowmaker, but you can never pick her before someone else does, which can be disappointing. So there's arguments for both sides, but for me personally, I think we'll see more bad than good if they allow duplicate characters on your team. Maybe a middle of the road solution would be to allow people to pick whatever they want in non-ranked mode, and for ranked mode limit it to one per side. This way people like me who don't like that duplicate picking could just play ranked and avoid non-ranked. So in summary, there's some good and bad. I do think the good greatly overrides the bad, especially if you have a bunch of friends to play with. And keep in mind, this game isn't even released yet. Some of the stuff I mentioned, such as the matchmaking issues with premates, may be fixed by the time the game releases. But hopefully now you can answer the question if it's worth buying or not. Its base cost is $40 US. There is a $60 version too that includes some skins, but for the purpose of this video I'm only talking about the base $40 version. In my opinion, I think it's easily worth it if, like I said, you have a lot of friends to play with. If you're a lone wolf, I would hold off until they sort out the matchmaking, or you may just end up getting frustrated. But at its core, this game is easily the most fun I've had with an FPS for quite a long time. The gameplay is smooth, fun, and addictive, and if they fix some of those issues I mentioned, I think it has a very bright future ahead of it. But I guess that pretty much covers everything. Like I said, these are just my personal thoughts and impressions. If you disagree with my points, that's fine. I'm not trying to sway anyone. And hey, the only way to know for sure is to play it yourself. This game is in open beta until the 9th of May, so go ahead and check it out. Feel free to let me know your thoughts, even if you disagree with me. I'm always looking for feedback and constructive criticism. When this game launches, I'll probably be making more videos about it. I don't want to put it on this channel though, since I want to keep it mainly World of Warcraft content. So I do have another channel set up. This will just be my miscellaneous channel. It'll have some Overwatch stuff on it, but also maybe some other games such as Rocket League or Dark Souls. Pretty much anything that isn't World of Warcraft, so if you're interested in that, I'll have an annotation right here and a link in the description that subscribes to that. Anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. Give it a like if you liked it, and if you really liked it, let me know in the comments and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching, good luck, and peace!
This fucking dude, his fucking ego's gonna be massive.
He's like, let me.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
What the fucking turn? That's his fucking show.
Some ghetto shit. Oh my god.